welcome, Cath, first of all.
Thank you.
Delighted to be able to be speaking to you once again. I think we need to start at the beginning here with really, when did this all come about and why?
I'm one of those people, I'm sure there's many of you the same. I'm a nester. And so many of my key memories and things that I love are visual memories. I'm quite dyslexic, but I can remember colour, print, faces, all sorts of things. So much of my life is, things that have happened in my life have been built up by memory. So I can clearly picture my childhood bedroom with rosebud curtains, the lilac guest room, whatever it is. But all my life, I've longed to live in a place that I would be my dream home. Mm-hmm. And so this book is really, it's the journey, the story of finding this lovely home, which is where I live today with my husband near Stroud, and the sort of arriving in my mid-50s in a place that I really wanted to settle in, very spoilt to find it, and the sort of journey of moving in, and the story of arriving with a lot of baggage. You know, I've been to one too many car boot sales in my life, or whatever it is. So I had loads of stuff, as did my husband, and it was about how to try and make a home and settle in.
Mm-hmm. And whenabouts was this in the chapters of your life, when we consider the eponymous brand, for example?
Okay. So we bought the house in 2012. I was still at that time very busy working at Cath Kidston, but over the next few years, we bought the house, and it hadn't been modernised for really very many years. So it took a while to get the building started, to work out what we wanted to do. We camped there. We camped in the back room. And so by the time I began to actually decorate the house and so on, it was close to the period where I left Cath Kidston. So having started my brand in 1993, by 2015, it was really quite a big company. And I thought, I'm not really a very good corporate person. I think it's time for me to hand over here. So I left in 2015, but stayed on the board. But it gave me time to really, the first time I hadn't worked in my adult life, I had time to really concentrate on making this home and all of that kind of thing.
So this was very much the next phase, almost a job in itself. It's such a huge project.
It was really a big distraction. I wouldn't call it work, but it was a distraction, yes.
Well, how did you know this house was the one?
So my poor husband, you know, wherever I go, like today, I was walking down Cowes High Street, looking in the estate agent window. I mean, I don't know if anyone else is the same, but I can't walk past without looking.
That's why I live here now. I did that by mistake.
I'm always dreaming of houses and bits and all of this and that. And we lived in this house very near where we are today, but it had a very steep circular staircase, and I knew I didn't want to grow old there. Mm-hmm. I just thought one day I've got to find a place where I can feel I can really settle. And I thought, I'd better find somewhere quite soon, because if I want to plant a hedge, I quite want to see it growing, age 55 or whatever I was. I'm now 66. And so we looked high and low, and we'd drive to Wales, all over the place looking at houses. And then one day this house appeared in Country Life, and it was just on our doorstep and where we walked our dogs. But it happens to have no public footways near it, so it's hidden. Mm. And it's in a place called Paradise.
Amazing.
This valley called Paradise. I was obviously overwhelmed at the idea of living in a place called Paradise. And we went to look, and there was this amazing, beautiful sleepy valley with a house that had all its character still intact. Mm. The old floors and fireplaces. Hopefully we'll be able to show you, I don't know. I can turn. There's Paradise Valley, if anyone can see that. And the house, around where I live, there are lots of, around Stroud, there were lots of wealthy wool merchants in the 17th century. It was a very affluent area then with the sheep and the wool. And our house had been a farmhouse that then got added onto by this wool merchant, and he put a Georgian front on it with this sort of rambling bit at the back. and it has this lovely front you can see in the illustration, and it literally drops off into a valley. It would take me back to my early history lessons. It's a Motte and Bailey originally.
Oh, right.
So it's like the mound and all of that, but it's in the most lovely situation.
Mm-hmm.
So we fell in love with the house and very rashly took on this project, not realising quite what we were doing.
Well, I mean, I think that's what happens with the best things sometimes. Otherwise, you wouldn't start, would you?
Yeah.
If you knew how big a project was going to be. So speaking of the fact that this was an enormous project, how do you go about restoring and renovating a huge house like this? Do you have a plan for the whole thing? Do you go room by room? How do you do it?
We've got the picture here. That's my sitting room, which is, I think, the reason I really fell in love with the house, because it's got this fireplace. I'd never seen anything like it. Beautiful original fireplace to the house, and the front of the house mirrors the shape of the fireplace, so it was all put in at the same time. So for me, the thing, I was very lucky. My husband's very technical and very good at organising things. So we gathered up pictures, photographed all our possessions, and also put measurements against things, so I knew everything that I had. Put them, in an album on my photos, and then I began to sort out what could fit where and what might work and what wouldn't. So this room, there's a pair of panel paintings either side of the fireplace there, which came from my mum and dad, and I sort of brought up with them. And I love working with things with memories. I like modern things layered with memories, but those pictures landed there, and the room came from that. And it was really a case of using some things that we had, and then buying other things. But I think the thing I set out to do is, as I say, we bought the house in 2012. It was really pretty much decorated by 2016, although it's an evolving process. I didn't want the house to be able to be dated by the year we put it in. And I remember when I was searching for things like bathroom taps, there was a huge craze for black taps whenever I looked at them. And I thought, I'm not going to go the black tap route. I've got to go for things that are just timeless where possible. But the one thing I love, and we probably see in some of the slides, is I have a weak spot for collecting pictures. And there's quite often junk pictures, or some are more collectible. But I like mixing pictures from all periods in with what we've got. So I began by this sorting out and everything, and working from there. And then I do have a penchant for colour, but I kind of tried to limit myself. The picture here is a bit brighter than the room is in real life. But I think back from my Cath Kidston days, I've always loved a bit of red and blue. Red, blue and yellow seem to be something I come back to. So this room, you can't see it in the picture, but I have some lovely paintings. I had a great aunt, a lady called Corrie Soames, who painted really cheerful, colourful pictures. And I had a portrait of a vase of flowers from Corrie's with bright yellow background, and that picture was the starting point, and a rug that we had from our old home. But it's quite fun. I like the limitations of having to work with the things that I have when I'm doing a house up. One, because it's impossible financially to swap everything, and it's really nice to make use of things, but creatively it really helps me to have some parameters. Otherwise I could go on forever with ideas.
Well, how much could you actually change in this house, given its age?
So when the building work that took a while, I had the most amazing builder it was his last job he did in his 70s, Dave, and he had worked restoring traditional houses, and he knew about restoration where it didn't leave a mark. And so we never used an architect, and the only thing we had to do structurally was we made extra bathrooms where there'd been spare bedrooms, but we didn't have to architecturally draw any, build on or change anything. In fact, it was really about protecting what we had there.
Right, okay, and plumbing and things.
And plumbing, a new roof, sadly. A new roof, plumbing and wiring. I mean, wiring's such a big thing, isn't it? I mean, we rewired this house then, and already I noticed the difference of how things have changed. Like the plugs we put in for the telephone don't work anymore. Everything updates, doesn't it? It's really, whatever happens.
I bet that didn't come up in the survey.
But I'm looking at the picture here, and for example, now I have some different cushions on that sofa. So things evolve, don't they, a bit?
Yes. It seems that this red is your signature. A lot of your rooms and a lot of your designs in the past. There's that dot of red.
I love a bit of red, but really what I love is a bit of cheerfulness. And I like in our sitting room, the main sitting room, it's quite calm and quite muted tones actually. And there's little bits of yellow in that room that lift it. But actually these pictures here, there's an awful lot of red. But that carpet and table I had. I love books and things. I've got way too many books, but don't you think books make the most wonderful decoration?
Absolutely, yes.
Another thing with a house is I want it to try and make it look, in my idea, as nice as possible, but I also want it to be very relaxed and welcoming for people. So like dogs, children, all of that stuff. It's not somewhere where you worry, about, sitting on a sofa and leaving a dent, whatever it is.
Yes, a pristine white sofa and a wet spaniel jumps on it. Yes.
But there's a mix of pictures and bits and quite typical of the things that we have in the house.
And have you themed every room differently? Is there a different vibe, as it were, as you go through the house as well?
There's a little bit of that, for example, the bright sitting room we looked at is our TV room. And it's almost like a playroom. And it really is, where we have our feet up, the fire going the whole time and everything. So that room had all my classic kind of colourful stuff and a lot of things I'd collected from boot sales and all the rest of it. And then the front bit of the house, the hall and the big sitting room, are a bit more grown up. It's like wanting a bit of pace and wanting it to be a bit calmer. And when we get to look upstairs, I've kept a lot of my floral stuff, which I obviously love, for the upstairs rooms. And actually what I've found is I love flowers, and I always love having flowers and plants around. But I tend to, when I get home, I have to work in London in the weekday, I get home, the first thing I do is cut flowers or bring my pots geraniums in. I like decorating with flowers in a room, actually, like a big bowl of flowers on the hall table or something, rather than having lots of chintz downstairs. Flowery thing. It's just how I've evolved a bit. But here, the dining room, that's the wallpaper from my print studio, a few flowery paintings. And there, the red chairs. I think dining rooms can be quite serious.
Yes.
And again, flowers on the table, trying to make things relaxed and friendly.
We haven't seen it yet, but there's quite a fun picture of a chap with a cracker hat on his head.
He maybe will turn up in a minute. Yeah,
there he is. Can you tell us about this?
So that's an old picture I had that looked very Blackadder. It's beautifully painted, and I did like the red curtain, but he's got a very tall, bald head. And so one Christmas, the cracker hat was put up there with it. Everyone asked, what did you put it up with?
Yes.
And I know it's terrible, but a bit of 2 small bits of blue tack. And they haven't left a mark, because every 5 years or something I put another cracker hat. But actually, when you walk in our hall, that picture's straight ahead, and it does make the house feel a bit more welcoming.
I bet it does, yes. That's
all of
so
that.
Important. Speaking of welcoming, all of us here, we've probably been through the process of buying new houses. How important is it, the energy when you walk in? And is that something you can change, do you think?
I think you can. Our hall is very dark. It faces north, and it's probably lucky. It's an internal hall, and it is the darkest room in the house. You have to put the lights on almost in a sunny day. And so one thing we did was, when you come into our house, there's a door straight ahead out into the garden, which was a solid door. And I put a glazed door in, which has made a difference. So you can look through and see a view. And I think it's always nice in the house. I reckon that I always open the doors between rooms when I'm at home.
Yeah.
My husband's always closing them for the heating bill, and I'm like, open the doors, because I like that feeling of airiness. So I think it's good to be mindful of how each room looks out on the other, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
And so you can look through, and I planted a tree straight ahead when you look through the garden.
Yes.
So there's that vision of it. And if people are coming in the winter, I light the fire in the hall, that kind of thing, to make it feel a bit more welcoming.
And it's the details as well, isn't it? I think you are the mistress of having the most beautiful things that make people smile, that make people feel welcome, and the drinks tray that you have. And
I like having a drinks tray for guests and things.
And a jar of Quality Streets, I heard about. What's that?
We've always had a jar of Quality Street in our house, a huge jar, glass jar, and it's just a tradition. And with it, literally, when I fill them up, They've got really mean now. If you buy Quality
I
Street,
know.
they're tiny and they've changed. Used to be much better and shinier. But I'll fill
changed the
them up.
wrapping.
And literally, a ghost comes by and they're like half left with the orange and the whatever that never get eaten. It's a tradition. But so like our drinks tray is a big old mahogany table from my mum and dad. And I cut a piece of glass that I painted bright blue and put it on top. One, because it saves the table, but it kind of made it feel lighter. So I didn't want the house to look... I love my parents' house, and my grandmother had a beautiful house, but I didn't want to copy. It's like... But do you think... I don't know about everyone here, but when I go into a house of my friends, what I love the most is if the house reflects them and is authentic to them. Right. And everyone has their own taste, and isn't that fabulous? And it should be like... I've got one friend who really... It's like dogs everywhere, and she doesn't care what her house looks like. And she's so spectacularly untidy, and I'm really quite envious of that. But it's wonderful because it's her. She's such a people person and a gatherer. She can leave the house. She once went. She had loads of her family for Christmas, and she told me she was able to go away on Boxing Day without clearing up the Christmas table for a week. And I was like, I wouldn't be able to do that. Isn't that fabulous that everyone has their own boundaries around homes? And I hate this thing of, is there good or bad taste? There's personal taste, and we all like what we like for ourselves. I think that's kind of such an important thing.
It is. What if you like to be tidy, but you have children and dogs that just run around?
I've got quite an untidy mind, and I'm quite hard at kind of focusing on things. It's a whole other story. But I like lots of cupboards. So if you open my cupboards, it might not be so tidy, but I have a really clean sweep before people come by.
Scurryfunge is the word, isn't it? Has anyone heard of this word before?
Yeah. I've never heard
It's one of my favourites. Yes, it means that dash to tidy up before guests come, and it usually comes around at Christmas. Charles Brandreth is
okay. So my aunt, who painted the beautiful pictures, she was quite eccentric. She had a lot of scarves, and she'd put things in piles in her house. And there are these sort of pyramids of scarves everywhere. It's a great technique for tidying up.
Yes, I just have lots of children's shoes. So here we've got a picture of the hallway.
This is a nice mix that's come up here.
Oh, yes.
So that happens to be my bathroom, and I wasn't expecting that picture.
No, that was in the other presentation, actually.
But anyway, that's my blue and white bathroom. I find it easy to, when I was looking at all my photos and when we were moving in, I kind of pulled things. So one thing that came out is I did have quite a lot of blue and white, quite lots of Greek things. I love going to Greece. So I've made my bathroom, I can pretend I'm in Greece. It's all blue and white. But the big stairs we've got stairs with a big, large wall. And I was a bit intimidated what to do with that. And I didn't have like acres of whatever, big pictures to put up there. So I decided to just collect and put all the things I love, and I did begin to collect things a little bit by colour, which I'm sure art collectors would say is the wrong thing to do. But there's a whole mix there of quite contemporary pictures on the stairs, which I think adds a lightness to what could be quite a pompous hall. We've got some pillars at the bottom, and it's sort of... And when I first moved in, I thought, ooh, that's a bit... It feels a bit overwhelming. And so having the fun pictures, and I think we'll see somewhere when you get... We saw the picture of the bookshelves with the red rug, and that's what you arrive at the top of the stairs. So again, it's about trying to create an atmosphere that's relaxed and friendly for people. And I do love collecting pictures.
I have a question about those, because we did the same in our last house with lots of little pictures going up the stairs, but it took us 3 years to do it because we didn't know how to start. Do you just have to put one up and make the rest of them work, or do you sit down and you kind of plan?
I laid them all out, outdoors. I laid them all out. I had the measurement of the wall.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
And then I laid everything flat. And I don't have Photoshop skills, but I think the best thing to do is to do it with Photoshop. And you just take snaps and work out. And that wall, you can't see on one side, there's one gap missing. And it's been missing for quite a long time. You know, there's a space. And it's a bit like one of those children's puzzles where you have to get the letters around a cube, you know, the thing. And I'm like, whoa, I can't take all the pictures down. When we repaint, I'll fill the gap.
Yeah.
but I haven't managed. So here we've got a bit of a Cath Kidston moment going on. So when I was doing the house, I kind of knew in my mind that I'd leave my business at some stage. And I really wanted to retain memories of that period, which is immensely important to me. And I still love all the old designs and the bits that I worked on. So on the left is a wallpaper called Paris Rose that I was very fond of. And that's up in an attic bathroom. And I put the paper up and then glazed it with a gloss varnish. I wanted that feeling of those old-fashioned bathrooms, because the house is quite kind of... I kept... The basin there was left from the previous owners. It was an old basin to the house. So wanting to retain that kind of slightly untouched feel in the attic. I've got some mad prints up there. It's like I wanted to feel like it had always been there.
Yes.
And then that's just off my bedroom, that chandelier my husband gave me with my favourite colours, the pinky red, blue and yellow glass. And in the back is wallpaper. It's called Birds and Roses. I love that wallpaper. And I have the same pattern in my bedroom. So I've got a lot of my memories and very personal things upstairs. I never have photographs downstairs. Few on the mantelpiece. All my photographs are in this room. I'm lucky I've got a dressing room of my bedroom, and they're packed with family photographs and memories. But they are very personal.
Yes, it's interesting that you choose
like
to keep them
it.
upstairs. Yeah. We have some somewhere as well that we'd love to hear about. Because those who were with us last night might have heard that actually you have some family from the Isle of Wight. And
I think we might see some pictures somewhere along the way. I have my grandmother and her sister and my great-grandparents, Atherleys. They didn't come from the Isle of Wight, but they lived in Southampton. There she is. That's Izzo and Murty. Murty below was a terrible gambler.
Oh, excellent.
She was very nice, but she was complete card sharp. She taught me to play gin rummy. And that's my granny above. And so that's my dressing room, and it's these personal memories, isn't it? They lived at somewhere called Landguard, which I think's near Shanklin, and I've never visited, but I'm going to come back and do another trip. So I've got lots of fond memories of the Isle of Wight from childhood. I was sort of going to Bembridge for summer holidays, all that kind of thing. I had that sand, is it black gunshine? All the different coloured sand. Loads of Isle of Wight mementos, but I've lost them along the way.
Oh, you have to fix more up. They definitely still sell them, especially
But this is very much decorating with memories, and then sort of playing with things like that little sofa, which I use the whole time to unpack or not. I found red bed covers in Zara Home. And it's like this fantastic thing where you can mix things and, use it for upholstery. But it's sort of modern rug, old, that's very much the sort of things I like.
Do you, with this house, given there were so many rooms, did you feel that you could be really experimental in some of them, do some wild things you might not normally have done?
I tried not to, because I'm always so worried about the cost with decorating. Because we had to repaint a room where I got the colour really wrong. And there's one room upstairs where the wallpaper was a big surprise. And I still to this day want to change it. But it is really expensive changing things. And it's like trying to live with things and see that maybe some accidents are happy accidents. And I think one thing I've learned is if I say send some material off to cover a chair, I've got a vision in my mind of what I'm going to expect when it comes back. And if it comes back differently, I have to kind of be open-minded to think, well, actually, it might be nicer or not compared to what I was expecting. Recently we went to see this amazing vineyard, and we got taken to an incredible palazzo in Tuscany. This woman was running this amazing setup there. And she had the most brightest yellow chairs in this very old room with murals and everything, really amazing yellow. And it was the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. I said, wow, that was fantastic. How did you choose your yellow chairs? And she said, it was so awful when they arrived. And I left them out in the summer for 3 years in the sunshine, trying to fade them. And now they're the thing I like the most in the house.
Wow.
And I thought, isn't that such a good way of looking at things? And she was just so appalled, and then realised that actually all is well. And so I think it's great. There's the room which has got the really bright wallpaper. I expected very, very pale blue and white. And I'd done something which is, I love that pattern. I'd ordered it custom coloured, which was really extravagant.
Oh, yes.
When it arrived, I didn't see the rolls, and the builder put it up, and it was almost like really royal blue and white. So I've painted over it with a wash of colours, but actually that room I really want to change. So that's a lesson in, again, my old fabric and everything. If any time I have a friend to stay, I almost want to apologise when I take them in there. Maybe I have to cover it all in more pictures or something. That's a mistake.
No, that's a mistake. Oh my goodness me.
Yeah.
So which is your favourite room in the house, and why is that?
I think I love our telly room because it's the place we spend the most time.
Mm-hmm.
But my bedroom, and I don't think we've seen the pictures of the bedroom. My bedroom has a view down the valley, and it's, there's nothing like one's own bedroom, is there? I've been travelling for a few days now, and I'm thinking, going back home, my bed, my pillows, whatever it is. So just by nature, there's my bedroom. And it looks down the valley with my Cath Kidston curtains and my funny pictures and bits and pieces, all the things I've collected. Fireplace and things. I feel very at home there. Yeah. It's all, to me, so much of it, again, is about memories and an atmosphere of things.
And you've been doing this for a very long time. What sort of tips can you give us for sort of easy to do things that would maybe bring light into a house, or to make something feel a little more cosy, even if you've not necessarily got a huge budget, for example, as well? What are some simple things that we can all do?
I mean, there's so many things that make a difference, aren't there? And it's sort of, in a way, quite obvious things like cushions and lampshades that completely change a room. Lighting makes a huge difference, doesn't it? And sometimes it's sort of, I had in the dressing room next door, I had curtains for a while. And then I realised, actually, I've got shutters. It might look better without the curtains. Sort of obvious things that one doesn't think about because they've always been there.
Yes.
And then, the brave thing is to take lots of pictures down and hang them up again. That's quite difficult. If it marks the wall, you have to work out what to do, don't you? Yeah. But it's just sort of sometimes moving things around a bit and using what you have. And then for me, always bringing plants and flowers in the house. That's not expensive, and it's an easy way to completely change and live somewhere. Instantly makes it welcome.
It changes the energy, doesn't it? It changes the air, changes the mood.
If you go and stay with a friend and they put a little posy of flowers by your bed or something, it's like a fabulous thing, isn't it? It doesn't matter what the room looks like. You feel water and flowers by the bed. Fabulous.
So how much of this is kind of gut feel? It feels like for you it is, but there's also practice. But do you think you've got to really develop that eye?
So I think a lot of it for me is about historically having been brought up with a family who are interested in houses. That picture there, that guest room, that material there was this amazing furnishing shop in London called Affia Fabrics. And old Mr. Affia had a basement full of antique fabrics. And that one, he told me it was Oliver Messel, but I didn't think it was. But it was a beautiful roll of antique glazed fabric that I collected and didn't know what I'd do with. And I carried it around from house to house for years. And then I thought, well, my eccentric attic, it's really fun to have it up there. But that came about because I have memories growing up of bedrooms. My parents, grandparents had these rooms with chintz and all the rest of it. And I kind of wanted that timeless kind of eccentric feel up there. So it all has stemmed from my memories. And therefore, I kind of have a vision of, I remember green carpet, but then I like the new pictures or whatever. So I think we all have our own references that we like. And nowadays, a lot of it isn't necessarily memories that you're brought up with, but it's things you might see on Instagram or in magazines. Or we've got so much access that when I was doing the house, there wasn't that much Instagram. It was much more memories and magazines and books. Now there's an overload. That's quite difficult, isn't it?
Yes, Pinterest
really
as well.
So I think it's trying to be strong about things, but I reckon it's good to try and get the bones of a house right and then worry about all the stuff on top later. So the colours you paint, the flooring, the expensive things that will be timeless, preferably, and then the other bits can be less critical.
No, fascinating. You've got a beautiful, like a Baroness type candelabra that I've seen that you put red candles in, and my first thought when I saw that was like I would take that, and that would be like the starting point of a whole theme for something.
Well, you could do that. Everyone could, each to their own, don't you think? Yeah.
But you have a real kind of a gut feel when you see a piece that you really love. Can you tell us about your fish bathroom? Hopefully we'll
I wonder if it will come up. That again is like, lots of things. I'm sure there's lots of people here who can't, I bet there's loads of people who love going into junk shops and antiquing. And often things come about because I couldn't resist buying something and I didn't know where it would go. And that fish panel was rolled up in one of my favourite antique shops down on Lily Road in Fulham. And it was a theatre backdrop of fish. And it just was the most I thought it was the most magical thing. And as I walked in, they'd sold it half an hour before. I said, oh, that's such a shame, I would have so liked that. And then it turned out they're really lovely people, that the people who bought it were an American antique dealer, and they realised it was more expensive to ship it back to the States. So they sold it to me. Then I got it framed, which was way more expensive than buying it had to be framed with perspex so it wouldn't land on someone's head in the bath. And I told the framer the height of the door, and it was this much too big. So they had to go back and change it. Luckily, not my fault. But that room and the bedroom off it, which I didn't really got a picture, it all came about from, I had the fish, and the only place I could think I could possibly put them was in the bathroom. So it's this quite eccentric room, but it actually makes me really happy whenever I go in there.
Yes.
But that's about finding things, and I just bought on my way here yesterday. I had to stay the day before in Winchester because I've been all over the place. And I went to stay in this hotel. And all over the foyer were these amazing hand-knitted pumpkins. And I said, God, this is incredible. Where did you get these from? And the girl working behind the desk said, well, actually, I made them. So I've got in my car, I bought off her a box of knitted pumpkins, like, amazing. And so now I'm thinking, where the heck am I going to put the pumpkins? But they're going to go somewhere, aren't they? But it is about gathering, and this house is full of a mad amount of stuff. But it's trying to start by making sense. And I did have to sell certain things and buy other things. But I like that puzzle of it's always trying to solve a puzzle somehow.
So how do you know when a room is done? So I guess it isn't. Is it always a constant change? If you see a new thing, you want to freshen something up? I think
sometimes it is quite nice to stop because it's very easy to get things, too busy and too crowded, all the rest of it. Sometimes it's taking things out. And then, things do evolve and date, aren't they? But there's a period where you think, okay, that's all right, people can come and stay in that room. And then maybe I'll go in a year later and think, oh my Lord, I better change that or whatever it is. I don't know.
No, it's funny how we change. So that's a lot of looking at inside. Should we think about the garden? Because I know this is...
Have we got any slides of that?
Yes, there should be some. Because obviously bringing the outside in is a huge thing and an easy thing that we can all do, a huge part of what you love. But tell us about your garden, what you love about it, what you've planted.
So basically what happened was when we bought this house, one of the reasons that we bought it is it didn't have very much garden. It has the most lovely view, which you can't see there, but it has a big view down Paradise Valley. And the really main bit of garden is we made a large terrace outside that's planted that is very easy to maintain, but it's like an outside room. But the thing that I did the first thing I did when I left Cath Kidston was treat myself to a greenhouse. And I began spending lots of time in the greenhouse. 2016 was the first time I really wasn't working. And I was like, what am I going to do with myself? So I got involved in collecting geraniums, developing the greenhouse, was lucky to be able to do lots of travelling and going to museums and things like that. And from that, I had hundreds, I really did have hundreds. I've had to cull it a bit, but loads of scented geraniums. And what I hadn't realised when I stepped away from my work was I thought I can be one of those people who go out to lunch. Hadn't been out to lunch really. I could go to the cinema in the afternoon or whatever it is. And actually what I found was when I did something like go to an exhibition, the default thing in me is to look for ideas. And I'd see something and it would trigger an idea for work. And I felt really quite trapped and depressed that I didn't have anywhere to take these ideas. And I began a small print studio again. And within that studio, I design mainly, it's still been running, it's been running for pretty much 10 years. I design and work for other people. So I do a lot of projects for Uniqlo in Japan, if anyone knows Uniqlo.
Yes.
They have print for all sorts of different categories that might not be apparent. But I'd worked with them years ago and I love the people there. There's my greenhouse when I was starting out. I've now got a lovely table at the end there. But that's when I sort of started getting very involved in the geraniums, but also designing and doing textiles. So of course I began to draw the geraniums and make geranium patterns and this and that. And then, when this book first came out, it's just a new edition has luckily just come out. Literally the week of the party, the pandemic struck. And so I was at home, obviously very fortunate to have my greenhouse. And I began to realize all scented geraniums come in an array of incredible fragrances. So there's lemon geranium, rose, mint, cedar, really clear lavender, really clear Coca-Cola, all these different fragrances. And I began to think about, of course, what could I make and sell that related to geraniums? I've always been a shopkeeper, and I don't know where it came from. When I was a child, I came to the Isle of Wight and stayed with my lovely aunt, who was a designer called Belinda Belleville. And she went off to work on a Monday and left me and my cousins with very young au pair girl. I was telling this story last night, so I'm sorry if I'm boring people. But when she went to work, she had a vegetable garden she was very proud of, and she had a street. And I thought, I could make a shop and find passing trade on the street. And I think I was about 8, 6, I don't know what age I was. So I picked her green strawberries, unripe things, put them all on a tray, sold the whole lot for £1, thrilled. And it's the only time I've ever seen her be really cross that Friday. So I had to bicycle miles up to the post office and give the £1 to the RSPCA. But there's something in me that naturally, I think I like the affirmation of shopkeeping. If I design something good, people will buy it. And if I was a fine artist, and I love drawing and doing things, I'd never really know truly if I'd done a good job. But if I make something and it resonates with people emotionally, I feel I've done a great job. And so I began to think about the story of what I could do and create, drawing and thinking about the product, the fragrances, everything. And I began to conceive this brand, C.Atherley. And the Atherley name I wanted to use because it's a family name that's died out. And of course, I'm no longer Cath Kidston. There's a wonderful brand called Cath Kidston, which is very much there and present and out there, and it's owned by Next, and they do a great job with it. So I'm Cath Kidston as a person, but I'm not obviously for work. But there's a little bit of me in the C.Atherley that just makes me feel connected to it. So I began to conceive this whole sort of story. There's some more of the geraniums. Let's see if we've got any pictures of. So I think it's 3 years ago, we launched this brand with different fragrances. So the first product I did is the geranium 1, 2, 3, and on they'll go. The first one is a classic scented geranium, which is hand creams, bath oils, all body care products and home candles and so on. So that one's classic geranium fragrance. Wish we could see pictures. We'll see.
Hopefully it will move on
itself.
It'll move on.
And then the next one is a mint fragrance, a thing called Tomentosum, which is a very fresh, minty fragrance, beautiful for things like shower gels and so on. Then I've got a citrus one, which is very much a lemon sherbet, lovely summery fragrance.
And this all comes from those different geraniums.
All in my mind. And the thing is, when I start something, I plan out the whole vision of what might become. So I'm hoping I would do 6 fragrance, not more. I've got rose coming next. 2 more I'm really interested in doing. But to try and make something that is really considered and thought through, and again I hope will resonate with people. So what I love is, I have a little shop in West London. I love being behind the till and watching people's faces when they smell the fragrance and say, oh, it reminds me of my grandmother. Oh, I know about, there's my shop. So this shop with lots of geraniums, and it used to be an old dairy, that shop. It's got a little greenhouse in the back and everything pelargonium in it.
For those of you who haven't smelt this, Jack Thompson stocks just about everything at the moment.
So I'm very, very lucky
High
that
Street.
I have this really beautiful stockist here, and sure a lot of you who live here are familiar with Jack Thompson. But honestly, from this tiny, most spectacularly beautiful shop, they are honestly one of our best outlets. It's incredible what they do, because they understand and visualize in the way that I do. I went in, I was literally blown away yesterday when I saw what they do. But it's about trying to make something magical. So I love it when people, either my friends on Instagram or through the shop or whatever, they share their geranium memories and all the things that fragrance resonates with them. And the thing I like yesterday I was talking to people who, luckily for me, have bought Cath Kidston products over the years, and they say, my son is 6'3" and he still has a cowboy duvet cover, or I've got a backpack that's been around the world, and all these lovely stories. And this is exactly the same philosophy. It's taking something I love and feels very sort of something I'm very passionate about and feel will resonate with other people. It's about all my geranium memories and stuff like that.
And how important was the fact that geraniums stand for renewal and resilience and protection and all these wonderful spiritual things as well?
You see, I didn't know that when I started, but I knew they felt like that.
Yes.
And the interesting thing is, when I create a fragrance, the thing I have to do is then put the words that I'm going to put on the bottle. So what's this going to make me feel? So when I'm choosing, all the fragrances are made, I grow the scented geraniums in my greenhouse. Then I select which fragrance I want to work with. And so the first one, which is called Pelargonium's Radance, is the one that reminds me of my granny, who was a fabulous gardener. And it just takes me back to when I was a small child and I learnt to rub the leaves rather than smell the flowers of the plant. And that to me is sort of very anchoring and balancing, but a happy, uplifting fragrance. And so I knew that was something I wanted to capture. Then the tomentosum is very kind of invigorating and calming at the same time. And how is something that's minty calming? But it is. And that's nature for you, and so on.
Grounding.
And so it's about the emotion of it is just as important as the product, and everything should reflect that. And it's exactly the same with my old business. You know, the nicest letters I got were people. I had a shop in Marylebone in London, which is near a lot of hospitals. And people would write to me and say, I have a relation who's sadly ill in hospital, and I would pop out at lunch and go to your shop. And it completely uplifted me that day, or whatever it is. And the idea of being able to pass on something that feels uplifting and happy is something that I think is innately a joy to be able to do that. So I did that with my shop. I hope I've done it when people arrive in my home. And then, honestly, if you walk into Jack Thompson today, I defy you not to be uplifted by this amazing display that they've got.
They are, and they do it very well, don't they?
Yeah, so they capture, and that's really my story.
Well, I think we might have a bit of time left for some questions. We've got about 10 minutes. Would anybody like to ask something?
Woohoo.
We have a microphone, but you may try. I don't know where the microphone is. Oh, yes. Would you like to try without? And if not, we'll get one to you.
Decorating tastes, very deep colours, very rich. I like Scandi.
Right.
How do we marry those two tastes, please?
Oh, I mean, it's like, there's a fashion at the moment, isn't there, for a lot of deep paint colours. And there are lots of people painting windows and walls and everything all into colours. But maybe with your textiles and with other things, you can add lighter colours if the paint colours are dark. You know, there's some amazing Irish country house books I was looking at the other day, which aren't at all Scandi, obviously. But there's this beautiful library I looked at, which had it had red, but it was strong coloured walls, and it had very light patterned sofas, simple sofas. So you know when you look at all those beautiful fabrics that, what's the label? I can never pronounce it. Svensson. You know, all the Scandinavian printed fabrics that are really beautiful. And they're very uplifting and Scandinavian, but they would work very well with strong colours. And actually, when you look at IKEA, they have amazing, beautiful, very simple, bold things that actually work really well with dark colours. So it's maybe embracing it rather than fighting against it. Make your little mark that way. Or get out your paintbrush.
I was just wondering whether your husband had any say in anything. Which follows on from that last question.
Do you know, it's a really good question, that. Yes, he does. And it can be the biggest sticking point. It's a bit like this, the previous lady who questioned me. It's all about gadgets for him. So where is his big TV? Where are the sockets? And actually, the one thing I've learnt, I'm very spoiled to have enough space to give him. He's got 2 rooms. He's got an office that I never go into, which is a man cave. It's covered in Post-its. He's got Post-its absolutely everywhere. And so he's got his room, which he can pile up lots of old car magazines, car and music magazines. And then, up in the attic, I converted a bedroom. He's an amazing man, and he's done way more than I would ever have claimed to have done. He's a record producer called Hugh Padgham. He's an incredible career. He did everything like from the Phil Collins drum roll to... He's worked for so many people, and he's got loads and loads of awards and amazing gold records and everything. So this room in the attic, I've filled with his awards, his Grammys. He's got the biggest sofa, a place to put his feet up, big telly. It's like a shrine to Hugh Padgham. So he's very, very important to him. And also things like, he's taught me this thing that if your lights aren't on dimmers, you can put a socket in the wall and from a remote, put them on dimmers. Has anyone else got that? It's fabulous. It's literally some gadget, and so I've got remote control. He's even got a remote control. He's got an armchair near the fire in our telly room, and we have one of those electric firelighters, and he could just lean over and switch it on, but actually he just uses the remote control. He's such a gadget fiend, and I'm very lucky because I can't work anything. So he's very important, but luckily he doesn't. He's not interested in colour and chintz and flowers.
That's just lucky. Any other questions over here? Got a mic coming.
Thank you for coming to the island. It's really lovely, and you're really lovely. I was going to ask you what your favourite flower was, and thank you for coming to the island, and you're a really lovely lady, and we're really lucky to have you, so thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The favourite flower for me is probably whatever I can pick any time of year and bring in the house. And so it could be, obviously now I'm planting my paper whites ready for Christmas and amaryllis. I can't pick snowdrops because my Atherley granny told me snowdrops were unlucky in the house. So at that time of year, I can't pick them. But I could bring hellebores in, daffodils, tulips, primroses, winter jasmine. Then in the spring, obviously roses are divine. It's really, and then I bring, sometimes if I cull my geraniums, I have long stems of geraniums, and I like put them in tulipas. I love those tulip vases for arranging flowers, because you make a huge flower arrangement from 5 stems. And then dahlias, I'm just learning about chrysanthemum, the ones I like. So I love plants in the house and flowers in the house. So my whole garden, where I haven't got that many flower beds, but I'm always thinking what's going to be out, and is there something for all the way through the year.
Very lovely.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Over there, hard at the back there.
So I've just completed my degree in textiles, and I'm just wondering if you have any advice for someone starting out as a designer, because it's just such a competitive industry.
Well done. That's a fabulous thing to have graduated in. Amazing. I'm just thinking, I'm very lucky that I get young people come through our studio from time to time, and I see quite a lot of young talent coming through. And I would say so many portfolios that I look at are very computer generated. And it's really difficult, this, because if you want someone working in your studio, you want them to be very good on Photoshop and be able to work and be very savvy with computer programs. But you also want to see their drawing and their own style. And so there's a few things that would resonate with me, is have all those skills and show that you have the skills, obviously, in your portfolio. Show your drawing and also your rough work and imagination and how mood boards and ideas are always great. So many portfolios are just print after print after print and bits. And so it's showing that kind of thing. And also colour projects. Because what one's looking for, people who can draw beautifully, work the computer and have a really good colour sense and be adaptable. And I think a lot of portfolios don't show all those things. I hope that's helpful, and I wish you really well, and congratulations.
That's a good question. I'm sure a lot of people want to know that answer. Over here?
I was going to ask, you said that you don't that much. How do you go about designing a pattern for artwork? Would you just start with a few paintings and think, oh, I like that bit, and then do it on a massive piece of paper, or do you not get involved with that?
No, I do. What happens is I'll start by sketching out an idea, or we might look at research and make mood boards and development and things. I'll do what I call a back of an envelope drawing. So I'll draw in pencil, usually, the outline and the thing, and the scale and the repeat of how that might work out, if that's applicable. Or if it was a carton of a box, I would draw it out. So, for example, when I did the book jacket, I didn't do that illustration. The publisher had an illustrator they wanted in the thing, and I think I sent the drawing of the house, and then they put the drawing into the pen and ink version. But I would have laid out the idea and done an outline and a doodle of the ivy wallpaper, which was from my studio that was behind. So I always start by thinking of the concept and the ideas. Then I have people half my age who scan it into the computer. We work together. They draw things up, and then I draw on top of it with my iPad. So my iPad is my saving grace, because I can recolour and draw with the pen and paper, and I like doing it by that feeling of drawing with a pencil, rather than using the tool for the computer and all the rest of it. So it's very limiting. And one of the things I promised myself when I left my old business is I would learn to use Photoshop, and I never did. And actually, if ever I have a chance, I would, because it's a bit like, can be Chinese whispers. I mean, we managed to work the whole way through the pandemic with everyone carrying on working at home, kept the studio going, remote stuff. And so with an iPhone, you take the snap of the idea, draw it out. So it's a bit what my husband would call Heath Robinson, a bit sort of done. But I think articulating and doing things like that, I can get away with it, but it's not ideal.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful, thank you.
Hello. So I get the impression this is probably your forever home, and you've had the opportunity to use a lot of the things that you've collected as you've gone along. Do you still allow yourself to collect things in case you go somewhere else or you want to use them somewhere different?
It's such a good point. I mean, it's like I do, but in a limited way. And then my lovely stepdaughter has just got her first home. And she luckily likes doing home things with me. And so that's given me a bit of an outlet. Poor thing.
Lucky thing. Can you imagine?
Sending a photo saying, I've seen this in a junk shop, any use? But I'm doing this job at the moment, which is fantastic. That this lady wrote to me who saw the book when it first came out, and said, would you ever help me do up my house? And it's what I used to do in the old days, years ago, work in interior design. And I said, I can help you, but I'm not going to do anything efficient, like ordering curtains. I can't do anything remotely efficient for you because I haven't got time. But if you want someone to sound off about what you like or don't like, I'm really happy to be that person and sounding board. So I went to see her on Wednesday and spent a day at the house, and we were carrying sofas around and pinning things up. And it's like being with a friend, really. And she's had 2 houses going on, so I've had 2 projects. So I like getting my hand in and helping with that kind of thing. I've got a terrible habit now. I think it's incurable, which is those auction sites where you put searches up and it's like, oh Lord, I'm always looking for geranium pictures, and in the morning it says, we have found you X. And so I don't know how it's going to all end up. Mm-hmm. And then I talked to my husband and said, what age do you think we need to be when we move into a 1 floor, whatever. There's always, where am I going to put the lift? That kind of question. So I don't know, but there's always room to collect something, isn't it? I hope.
Yes. I think we've got time for one more question. And by the way, after that, there will be an opportunity to have Cath do a signing of book over in the church hall over there. I think you can purchase the books there as well. And obviously, again, in the bookshop in Northwood House as well. So who's going to have the last question? Over here.
I'm currently doing a fashion degree, so I'm having to come up with a lot of concepts and fresh ideas. So when you were creating the patterns and prints for Cath Kidston, how did you get inspired? What were you inspired by?
Sort of back to, I think, what I was saying earlier, is a lot of it's from memory stuff. But fashion, it's such a wide open thing, isn't it? It's such a wonderful thing to be studying, because you can pull any influence you want into that, can't you? It's in a way broader than home things of what you can do. And I suppose it depends. I don't know what aspect you're interested in, whether it's sort of ideas based on tradition and therefore you can look at heritage and all of that, or if you're looking at more contemporary or newer things. And then obviously the ideas come from that way. I mean, to my mind, always keeping one's eye out, you see things just walking around every day, don't you? It's that thing of being curious. And you're obviously curious if you're doing a fashion degree. But I think curiosity always leads to ideas, and you're never short of them if you're looking.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. Cath, thank you so much for joining us and for coming to the island for the festival. I think it's been a real treat to have you here, and also last night as well. Thank you so much, Emma and Spence Willard, for sponsoring this talk as well. Yes, we hope to see you. Come and join us for a signing.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
No, welcome.